Hello, this is Justin D speaking at the Men's Stag meeting in Tiburon, California on 7/17/2024. Please like and subscribe. Pleasure to be asked to speak for Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you, Marcel. I don't think he's here. He asked me to speak. I'm a little nervous tonight. I feel like there's some big shoes to fill standing from this podium for this particular meeting, the Men's Stag. I really look up to you guys, and I want what you have. So to be asked in my small alcoholic thinking mind is a big deal. I want to fill the shoes. I want to show up in the way that I think would serve justice and that would show respect and show honor to the lineage that this group has carried on for many years and all the lives that it's saved. So that was what I was pontificating in my morning meditation. Anyway, just an alcoholic. So I'll be speaking on step 7 tonight. I'll just quickly qualify. I am alcoholic, real alcoholic. I was a chronic alcoholic. I lost the ability to control and enjoy my drinking simultaneously. There was times when I didn't want to drink when I drank. There was times when I said, I'm just going to do one, and who knows when that ended. There was times when I went to the strange places that we find ourselves as alcoholics, jails, institutions, mental hospital, you name it. And I'll tell you a little bit about my last drunk was, I was trying to quit through maintenance of another substance and, was having trouble doing that. And the moment that I woke up that morning, there was this deep hole blowing through me, and there was a cold wind, and I was inherently not okay. And I was contemplating, what it would be like if I wasn't on planet Earth anymore. And I was 22, 23 years old, and, I didn't want to be here. And that was where drugs, particularly alcohol, brought me to my knees. And I lost every relationship that had any meaning. I lost my ability to show up for my family. I wasn't employable, right? You guys get the deal. And so it was not, I didn't come to Alcoholics Anonymous on the wings of victory, as they say. But when I got here, I balked a little bit, and then I, begrudgingly started working with this guy, a sponsor. And we read the book, and I liked that the guy had some material things, right? And he seemed to be able to not drink one day at a time. And so that was what I wanted. So I kept coming back and I took some suggestions, right? And we started reading the book and we got into some of the solution. And he asked me if I was powerless over alcohol, if my life became unmanageable. And I didn't understand what unmanageability was, but he helped me have a first step experience. He asked me, who is the general manager of Justin D. Limited Liability Corporation, and how is that manager doing, right? Like, wrecked countless relationships, totaled countless cars, can't hold down a job. Like, do we need new management? And I had to agree. And he made some suggestions in taking some right next steps in step 2 and integrating the pause while we read this spiritual book, which I still didn't understand. And then we got on our knees and we made a decision to carry out the rest of the step work through step 3. And, a little bit of faith met some action and wrote some inventories, which took me probably 6 hours and 7 months, 6 hours of writing and 7 months of doing whatever else I could instead of writing. And I was still very spiritually sick. And I read it to the man, and I thought there was going to be some, crazy fireworks come out, or I was going to see the Eye of Ra come down or meet the Jesus or something. But that just wasn't my experience the first time through. What happened was I had a personality change sufficient to bring about a little recovery from alcoholism. And there was a shift inside of me of a spiritual nature where suddenly I didn't need you guys to change for me to be okay. I could fit myself around circumstances and situations instead of needing situations to change. And acceptance, right? And so we made a list of some of these character defects in step 6, the grosser handicaps, the things we found to be objectionable. And started praying for the willingness to have those things removed by a power greater than myself, which now, at that point, I had some conception and some experience thereof, right? That there was this, I didn't like the word God, but I like the word higher power, right? So there was this higher power, is this higher power that could do for me what I could not do for myself. And I saw it working in all you guys, and I wanted it to work for me, but this is where the rubber met the road, right? Is in the practice thereof, right? So having a morning routine. And praying for the willingness each day and doing the writing. And when the character defect came up, praying for it to be removed or that the next best action be taken or running it by another alcoholic on a regular basis, making those phone calls throughout the day. So as it that brought us to the 7-step prayer, 7th step. And, just to reference our literature a little bit, my sponsor told me from page 85, I believe it is, we're never cured of alcoholism. What we really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of our spiritual condition. And that was going to be a stay of execution for this day based on the maintenance of the spiritual condition. And he told me that the maintenance is a unity recovery and service, the legacy of Alcoholics Anonymous of what I do today. And so it's going to be based on my actions, not on my feelings. And I always felt like I was coming up short, like a shortcoming, but just always coming up that way. And my sponsor said to me, we need to act our way into right thinking instead of thinking our way into right acting. We think the problem resides in the mind rather than in the body. My alcoholic mind tells me I need to feel like taking the action to feel motivated before taking the action, rather than skip the intermediary step of planning and just take the right action along spiritual lines. And that brought us to step 7, which is the prayer. In our basic text, through a little bit of studying, I found that there's kind of 2 7-step prayers in the book. The first one is by Bill Wilson in his chapter 1. This is Bill's. I humbly offer myself to God as I then understood God, to do with me as he would. I place myself unreservedly under his protection and direction. I admitted for the first time that of myself I was nothing, that without him I was lost. I ruthlessly faced my sins and became willing to have my newfound friend take them away, root and branch, from page 13 of the basic text. And then there's the 7-step prayer, which we see off the wall. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. And that's from page 76 of the basic text. My sponsor also will point out, a quote from page 100. You should point out that his defects of character are not going to disappear overnight, right? So I thought you do the prayer and then suddenly they all vanish. Well, day after doing the prayer, they did not all vanish, and they still have today yet not all vanished. And I've done the prayer several times, probably every day. But what my sponsor told me is that they can be removed for today. Letting go of fear of yesterday and tomorrow. I'll get to that in a second. And he told me that, with this new relationship, he was going to be the director, right? I'm an agent. He is the principal. I am the agent. He is the father. I am the child. It's a new relationship of humility. Because up to that point, I didn't have much humility. Living the double life. More than most people, the alcoholic leads a double life. He is very much the actor who, to the outer world, he presents his stage character. This is the one he likes his fellows to see. He wants to enjoy a certain reputation. He knows in his heart he doesn't deserve it, page 72. And I can identify with that. So often I was, a chameleon or an actor or something, and where I just, I'm so fixated on what you think or what I think you think of me, right? And today is probably the strongest drug I use still. And it's tied into that pride, right? And so in coming into 7, it's about releasing that and taking this whole bag of tricks, right? So I've made probably a list of the defects of character, and along with another person and with God to assemble this. And I've been praying for the willingness to have this all removed, this whole kit and caboodle, this whole bag of my mess, and to turn it over, everything I am and everything I am not. All my ideas about myself of what I am and what I am not, right? My career, my money, things as they present itself to me, the selfishness itself, yeah? Everything. And I'm becoming willing to do this, and then I'm letting the new power come in to flow into me. Page 55. We finally saw that faith in some kind of God was a part of our makeup, just as much as the feeling we have for a friend. Sometimes we had to search fearlessly, but he was there. He was as much a fact as we were. And that was my experience. It has been my experience since I have started looking, seeking, as it talks about, particularly in step 11, a relationship with the higher power. It's revealed itself to me. And I'll just give you another one. God does it, we don't. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. So it kind of talks about losing this fear on page 76 in the 12 and 12. I want to do that. We'll come back to that. So in becoming ready to have these defects removed, I am, trying to clear the ground a bit, as the big book says, and I'm trying to gain a new relationship with my Creator. Yeah, and my experience with that has been, sometimes like I, say the 7-step prayer in the morning, and I set a timers like on my phone that have spiritual reminders throughout the day, which like attempt to realign me back to his will, thy will, not mine, be done. And I often do that poorly. Sometimes it seems to go really well. There's a fly. Sometimes not. And sometimes I get caught, right? I get caught off guard. I get knotted up. I identify with self, because the big book tells me self manifests in various ways what has defeated us, right? So it's making the clear distinction between self and us. So this thing, self, has defeated me. Gets my attention. It's a talking illness, right? And it tells me, okay, this is more important than God, essentially, is what it's telling me. Conscious separation. And I don't necessarily see it for what it is, because maybe I'm spiritually sick. And what happens is self manifests. I say something, I act out some way, right? It happened at work the other day. My boss, I thought, addressed me in a fashion that was, less than respectful, right? We'll just say politely for AA terms. And the first reaction of mine was to get tight in my stomach, and didn't think of God first thing, I'll tell you that. Like you guys have been trying to pound it in my head. But I paused, yeah? And the first thing I thought was a little unsavory. I thought, I don't get the respect I deserve. Yeah, maybe you felt that before, I don't know. And so, okay, the thought arose, right? And I'm here, I'm present in the moment, yeah? Walking around the fourth dimension. And what do I do with this, right? So I know now, pause when agitated or doubtful, ask for the right thought or action, right? Restraint of tongue and pen. So don't say anything and be loving, yeah? And then deal with that when I have enough insight or spiritual discipline to properly address the situation, right? Because I can always come back, yeah? I can always step aside, remove myself from the circumstances, write a 10-step, call another guy, pray, meditate, read the book, whatever I need to do to get realigned, yeah? And so I go to the bathroom, get on my knees, I did the third step prayer. I come back, and I ask her, hey, how are you doing today, right? It's a revolution to me. It's revolutionary for this alcoholic because my thinking doesn't always lean that way, yeah? And I'm so glad that you guys gave this program freely. Only requirement is an honest desire to stop. To me, yeah? And what do I do? But I try to apply it in my life one day at a time. And this is an option, right? Because after finding the things that we've found to be objectionable and asking for them to be removed, now I have a decision to make. Either God is or he isn't. What is my choice to be, right? When the truth is revealed to me, up to that point, I've probably just been under the grace of the higher power. And it's time for me to continue to expand in understanding and effectiveness of the will of that higher power. So the instincts gone awry can be righted. And other spiritual programs, they may call this sin. And this is a quote from page 76. God remove defects. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things that we have admitted are objectionable? Can he now take them all, every one? If we still cling on to something, we will not go. We'll ask God to help us be willing. So another affirmation of the willingness. Continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When they crop up, we ask God to remove them at once. Page 84, another example that a greater power than us is going to remove this. Now we try to put spiritual principles to work in our lives. When we do that, we find it solves our problems too. The ensuing lack of fear, worry, and hurt feelings is a wonderful thing, page 116. And, ultimately, our very life as ex-problem drinkers depends upon helping others. So being useful to others, giving rather than getting will become the guiding principles, page 128. And so I find that when I can be of service and when I pray to be on the service plane, things seem to go pretty swimmingly well. I can't predict what the day will be ahead, right? My alcoholic thinking will still sometimes tell me what 3 o'clock in the afternoon is going to be like at 8 a.m., right? So in our attempt to live in the present moment is different than living one day at a time, but the attempt being to live in the present moment, I'm watching the thought life as it talks about in step 10 and 11, yeah? And I'm headed out with this intention to do what it tells me on awakening, yeah? But I often fall short, yeah? So step 6 and 7 in practice for me are about realigning with that higher power at any given time. On page 86, it says, on awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead, right? We consider plans for the day. Maybe you guys are familiar. I'm sure you are. On awakening doesn't necessarily mean when you come out from your slumber, right? Maybe it means that when you awaken that you've been spiritually sick or when you've been spiritually asleep. So that is an applicable section of the basic text at any time, day or night, throughout the day. I can restart that. And then if we, to stay, right, so we have our goal is to be of maximum loving kindness and service to others. I can't reference the page, sorry. But that's my goal, right, is to be of usefulness to other people. And so to help determine if I'm off of that goal, it's a very high ideal. To help determine if I'm off that, I can run it by the 4 absolutes: absolute love, absolute purity, absolute unselfishness, and absolute honesty, which, Bill Wilson borrowed from several other spiritual programs, including the Oxford group. That brings me to page 76 in the 12 and 12. The 7th step is where we make the change in our attitude, which permits us, with humility as our guide, to move out from ourselves towards others and towards God. The whole emphasis of step 7 is humility. The root word humulus, to be close to the earth, to be human, right? To be not too overinflated and not too underinflated. Like I once heard the metaphor of the balloon, right? Like if I am in the balloon, being underinflated is thinking less of myself. Being overinflated is my balloon is flying up too high in the atmosphere. So the objective is to have it be right-sized, not overexpanded or underexpanded. So my big book tells me that I can't do that alone, that I must have God's help. And so my effort is to clear the channel with that higher power that will do it for me. I feel like I've beaten a dead horse at this point, but I'll give you one more. So one thing that's come up in my life, several years sober, is the bedevilments, which it talks about on page 52. And I'll read them off because I'm running out of time. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We could not control our emotional nature. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Sounds pretty shitty to me. But I can relate, yeah? Like, give me 4 days away from, a meeting and without any prayer or meditation, without writing inventory, without talking to alcoholics, the manifestations itself come right back up for me. And so I have this lifeline that you guys have given me through the spiritual program of action that I get to be a free range alcoholic. Yeah. But I just need to be tethered to you guys. I need to stay right in the middle. And when I do that, things seem to go pretty well. It doesn't mean that things are really wonderful all the time. How am I doing on time?
You're good. You got 7 minutes.
Oh God. Doesn't mean that I am going to be, a spiritual giant now, right? I said my 7-step prayer. Everything's going to be changed. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But what it means is that I continue to grow along spiritual lines. This is another quote I liked. The 7th step is where we make the change in our attitude. Oh, I already read that. The change in our attitude, right? And humility, right? The principle of humility. I was talking with another alcoholic up in the Nevada Fellowship when I lived up there years ago, and he was telling me about his spiritual experience, right? He was telling me his AA story. And in the midst of this, he stopped and he looked me in the eyes and he said, "I love you." It caught me off guard. I was like, okay, dude. But that was what was true for him, right? It was not him that was acting out of line necessarily. It was me that couldn't necessarily receive it, right? And so how many times on a daily basis are these service opportunities, are these opportunities for the observation of God working in my life, of love working on my behalf, of a good, orderly, directive universe that I miss, yeah? Like the 11th step, there's a version of the St. Francis prayer which says, "Make me an instrument of thy peace," yeah? So how tuned do I want my instrument to be? Yeah, how tuned can it be? And so step 6 and 7 for me has been about tuning the instrument, yeah? And so tuning it in the morning, tuning it throughout the day, because when you hear a poorly tuned instrument, you know it, yeah? I want to go out into the world and see as many of these opportunities for service and for love and for seeing God working in my life and other people's lives, because not only because that's what the big book tells me, but it's also, because it feels good. Yeah, I'm an alcoholic. I want to be high all the time. So and I constantly fall short, right? Shortcoming. And it's through the admission of my brokenness. It's through the confession, as they call it in the Oxford group, of my shortcomings, these grosser handicaps, these things which, I don't want anybody else to see or to know that I even have, right? In polite society, it's all about bigger, stronger, faster, better, what looks good, yeah. Outward appearances are better than inward realities kind of thing. But then we come in here, and it's through my brokenness, through the confession of my brokenness, and attempting to gain a relationship with the higher power one day at a time, that I am brought into this new sense of freedom and a new sense of power. The big book says we'll have a new freedom and a new power. And we're not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We're probably page 84. And so in that, the definition of new being never before experienced. Yeah. So I cannot predict what the future will hold for me because it's going to be brand new. And I'm going to have a larger, higher power than I ever did before because I'm sticking along these spiritual lines. And I'm actively going out in the world and I'm trying to be of service to other people, taking away the focus on self, the self-centeredness, the bedevilment that can manifest in us on a daily basis. And by living this way of a spiritual life, oh yeah, by the way, I don't have a desire to drink or use drugs alcoholically. Like, what a deal, right? Like, when I came to AA, I had no idea that was what was on the table. I saw the word God on here, and I was like, I don't know about all that. I saw confession, I didn't know about that. But now I've found through, especially through 11 step and 6 and 7, that when I confess my brokenness to you guys, to other men in the program, I have a sense of relief. And then it opens me up to be vulnerable enough where you guys, that God comes in through those sores, through that brokenness, and can solve the problems from within, because the big book obviously tells me deep down inside every man, woman, child is the fundamental idea of God. So maybe inside, and sometimes I just look too hard on the outside. In closing, so much more I wanted to quote. In closing, I was going over the manuscript of the first edition, and one thing that stood out in my last minute was, so they changed a lot of the verbiage from you to we, like the plural version to be maybe more inclusive. But originally it said, if you can answer to your satisfaction, we now look at step 6. And what it currently says, if we can answer to our satisfaction, we looked at step 6, right? So the inclusivity, yeah? It's not forbidding. And when we were ready, we said something like this, yeah? So it's implying that there's a readiness that needs to be done, right? That we've gone through the previous steps to clear the ground a bit, to increase this relationship with a higher power, to make an attempt at this humility, and to let go of the outcome and have these things removed on our behalf. Yeah, that's what I got. Glad to be here. Thank you both.
Thank you, Justin, for your share. We'll now
Hey guys, thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe to my channel for more videos, especially if you're interested in cooking. Cheers.